We're on page 131, the last paragraph in the 8th Maimer, chapter 1 of Kuntres U'Maayan. And to just recap, the Rebbe is discussing here a very, very important philosophical idea that's relevant to life and to belief, and that is, does our avodas Hashem, does doing of mitzvahs make a difference to Him, to Hashem, or is it just for our benefit? In the language, to quote the language of the Medrash, Litzaref es abrios, the purpose is to refine us, but He Himself, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, doesn't need it. This is the discussion. So, at this point, where we're at is that Hashem, in His very pure essence, which we call right now Or Ein Sof, the infinite energy of Hashem, it doesn't touch Him at all. The last line of the second paragraph, Ava Lagabi Or Ein Sof, Ein Ha'inyan Nogea Klau. Now the Rebbe asks in what we're starting today, learning today, a rhetorical question. There's a pasuk in Shmois, you shall serve Havadetem as Hashem Elokeichem, God your God. It's explained elsewhere in regard to this verse, the avodah hitzayrech gavoya, that avodah, service, Havadetem, is for the benefit of Gavoha, who's the one who's exalted, Hashem. So the Rebbe's question is, the implication is that serving Hashem is not only relevant to us, but it's also relevant to Him. So how can you say it's not that way? That's his rhetorical question. Zehu begins the answer, the retort to the rhetorical question. Zehu b'seder ishtalshelus. This remark of Avadetem Yoni, that it's relevant, is only that from that aspect of Hashem that's called Seder Ishtalshelus, which means the progression of Hashem's energy as it's catered and fit for the world. In other words, it's not the essence of Hashem, okay? So, Chevra, you have to know that Seder Ishtalshelus, which we learn every page, you can see this, right? Every Hishtalshelus, Seder Hishtalshelus, the order of Hishtalshelus, that's all a reference to an emanation of Hashem, not the essence. So the Rebbe says here, Hillel, that the verse Va'avadet es Hashem Elokeichem, implying that it is relevant to Hashem what we do, our Torah and mitzvahs, it only touches that aspect of God that's Hishtalshelus. That's already a removal from the essence, from the Or Ein Sof. That's his answer. Let's continue. V'hainu, and if you want, and to spell it out, where does Avodah touch the essence, Spheres, Atzilus, it touches the 10 spheros of Atzilus, the world of Atzilus. The Reishisa, the first of which is Chochmah. Sham Nogeya Avodas HaTachtonim. Over there, the activity of us below, of our mitzvahs, or the opposite, whatever we do, touches Nogeya, it touches Chochmah of Atzilus. From there, it starts there, and it impacts everything from there. It says elsewhere, as we will explain soon. Avo, conversely, if we talk about the infinity of Hashem's energy, that transcends Seder Ishtalshelus, Einam, Toifsim, Mokim, Maisa HaTachtoinim, the activities of the Tachtoinim, us below, Einam, Toifsim, Mokim, have no impact. Crystal clear, he spells it out. So now he goes back to the quote that he quoted before from Pirkei Avos. Lahodia, right? What was the question, Moshe? Why does the Mishnah tell us that there were 10 generations from, the 10 generations? Why is that relevant for us to know? And it was 15 generations, or 13, or 7? So the Rebbe says, to apprise us, Kama Erech Apayim, top of next page, 133. Lefanov to let us know how Hashem lengthens his anger. All these generations were angering Hashem. The Rebbe says, what does this mean? That although they angered God, nevertheless, Hashem gave them some energy from the level called the lengthy faces, right? Apayim also comes from that term, as we learned earlier. Shehu b'chinas oirin sof. This is a reference to that aspect of God that's infinite. Shelamaydim esel ishtalshelus, that transcends Seder ishtalshelus. Levishushom enogeh ma'istachtonim v'yechoylem hakoy lekabel. Everyone can receive from there. Guess what? Even the wicked people. This is a very answer. Why do wicked people prosper? And what's the answer that we have right now on the table? That is because it comes from the Erech HaPayim or Ein Sof aspect of God that doesn't differentiate between good and bad. Now this needs clarity. I'm not going to go into it right now unless the Rebbe gets into it. But that doesn't make sense.
I just want to clarify one other thing. Other places in the Tanya and so on, he uses the phrase "kuchabrichu shchinte." Are we basically substituting a different language? Are we talking about the same thing?
In footnote 183, I believe he alludes to that. Everyone, look back for a moment. Mm-hmm. The Tanya, on the left-hand side of 180, of footnote 183, the Tanya quotes the Kuntres U'Maayan to explain the Zohar. Who is a chassid? He who is benevolent towards his creator. I think over there is also the section where it says what you quoted.
Right, in the Tanya, that's a similar section. Yeah,
that's right. So it says the Hebrew. Okay. So you look at that footnote for clarity.
That happens to be the section that Baruch and I are learning right now in the Chassidus Migaweris, and so I just wanted to clarify if we're talking about the same thing here. And it sounds the same.
Yeah, but
it sounds like we're talking about the same territory.
But you're asking, we're talking about the same. Which aspect is the same, Hillel, in your mind?
Meaning the Ein Sof is coexistent with the Kuchabrichu, and the Or Panimi is coexistent with the Shechina. So when he says here that the Rishayim are Mekabel, the Chiyus from the Or Ein Sof through Hishtalshelus, could you also say that they're getting it from Kuchabrichu as opposed to through the Shechina?
Well, we learned yesterday they get the hinder part of Kuchabrichu, but here we're talking about the second way that the Klippas get, which is from the Makif. Look at now. Look at note 185. 185. It tries to explain. How can you say? This is my question. This is what I think is. How could you say that from a place in God that doesn't discern between good and bad, the bad should get? I mean, that seems to be an oxymoron. If it's such a high, if it's above Ishtalshelus, if it transcends Ishtalshelus, it's like the most holy. You're telling me the most holy gives place for evil?
Yes, it sounds like you are telling me that.
Yes, you're right on. Now we have to understand that. So look in 185. Because the energy from there descends to the Sitra Achra from the supernal Makiv. Therefore, they can receive it despite their repeated angering of God. It is kind of an oxymoron. It's a very interesting concept. Mm-hmm. You see, let's take, for example, at a wedding, a parent at a wedding is so elated that his son or his daughter is married, especially if it's an only child. The mashal really is brought in the Chassidus for an only child, but we'll just extend it, right? You know, at that time, you don't differentiate between this one and that one. Everyone's your friend. everyone you want to give to, everyone you want to dance with. Some people are really not your friend, and maybe they're your opponents, and they come for some reason. There is a time and place when the energy of Hashem is open to anything, and it doesn't discern. We call that makif. The makif. The encompassing energy. And Klippa gets its nourishment from there. So that's what he says here. When we say that Maisa HaTachtoinim, our activities, what we do, makes a difference to him, capital H, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we're talking about that aspect of Hashem that's, what's the word I'm looking for? That is groomed and looking for acceptance, comfortability, a place to be at. But that aspect of Hashem that doesn't care, you're talking to the wall. But if you're talking to the wall and the sun is shining, What do we need? These simple example. The sun is shining. Guess what? The sun shines on the garbage as well. The smell, the filth, it's shining. So the garbage becomes illuminated because of the sun. But it's garbage. But the sun doesn't, the sun from its perspective doesn't shine because there's either garbage or nice grass and flowers. The sun shines. This is what we say, Moshe, is called the Or Ein Sof. The Or Ein Sof, Yoni, the Or Ein Sof, the infinite light of Hashem, in its makif state, doesn't discern. It just shines. Everyone can get. So over there, Maisa HaTachtoinim, as he says at the end of this paragraph, everyone can receive, and that's an answer why the evil, the bad people prosper. That's the answer, because they chaparine, they jump in to an arena where it's open for all. And of course, they abuse the energy. But if you're wondering, the question is, how can Hashem, from his perspective, allow that? The answer is free will. Let's continue next paragraph.
Dalton,
yes.
Rabbi Dalton, you just said something. You said that they abuse the energy. How do they do that? How do they gain?
How do they do that? By trying to kill you, rob you, and hurt you. Let me ask you, how did Yishmael, let's go to the parshas that we'll learn now. How does Yishmael do what Yishmael does against Avram, Avinu? How? So the Zohar says that the Arabs have, the Balkans have a half of a bris. They don't have a full bris. So they have some energy. Okay, but I'm talking in cup. Philosophically, hi Ari, how do they do that? The answer is they're sucking energy from a place that allows itself to be nourished. It's open. It's the sun. The sun says anyone that wants can benefit from me. And now if you're asking why, for free will. For you and I, Moshe, to have free will, we have to have it be open to all. Otherwise, we don't have free will. You seem lost. You understand what that means? For you and I, for our avodah, what we do to make a difference, there has to be the opposite available, which means don't do it. So Hashem gives the Goyim a Bilam to challenge Moshe Rabbeinu. Okay? If he wouldn't do that, or if there wouldn't be Arabs all around Eretz Yisrael, it would be free reign. And when Mashiach comes and that situation is eliminated, so the difference is between good and better, free will. But I don't want to go into that now. Right now it's between good and evil. Okay, let's go back to the paragraph.
Rabbi,
yes.
just a question. last week we were talking, what the Rebbe was talking about was how a person, a Yid, we were talking about a Yid that goes off the derech, right? So how could someone that's a Yid, how could he still have schusim? Like, and we talked about how, he had a bris. Maybe he did a mitzvah when he was 5 years old, and today he's I don't want to say, he's horrible, So I'm saying I see the parallel between that and what we're learning today about the energies, meaning like what we're talking about, how can a good person, how could someone be a Rasha and receive all these wonderful brachas? We learned last week that we're talking about Yidden. I don't know if the Rebbe is talking about Yidden Goyim now, but I'm saying that he does have brachas for whatever mitzvahs his parents gave him a bris milah.
Right, Yoni. But you're talking now. What you're saying is correct, but you're talking about from the Jew's perspective. What we're learning now and discussing and analyzing is from God's perspective. That's the issue here. What tickles God? What makes a difference to Hashem? Is he impacted or not? Does what I do or don't do really make a difference, or is it all a made-up story, a mirage, a fantasy? And the Rebbe says it absolutely makes a difference. However, it depends what perspective you're coming from. There's a perspective where it makes all the difference because that's the Hashem invests himself and clothes himself and says, from this perspective, the way you act makes a difference. Then there's another simultaneous perspective where from there, what we do does not make a difference, and it's only because he chooses and wants us to do it, we do it. That's the question. You have to always remember this. Of course Hashem wants you to put on tefillin. The question is, does he want you to put on tefillin because it's relevant for you to put on tefillin because it does something for you and automatically for God? Or is it relevant because he decided and really it makes no difference? Now, logically it makes no difference. But I decided for some transcendental reason, which we call a taiva meaning a spiritual lust, but the word lust here is no good. We need to say a spiritual experience that he decides I want. So put on tefillin. So and tefillin becomes the most important. In other words, like this. When is tefillin and mitzvahs more important? From the perspective that it makes a difference for us, or from the perspective that that's what he wants? The answer is from the perspective of what he wants. Because then it's all about him. He wants. Not, it's for me. Once the position that it's for me, Hillel, is already a secondary benefit, a secondary position. Meaning that for himself, it doesn't make a difference. But just for us, he wants it. So that's what we say a lower experience, a lower level, a lower perspective. The higher perspective is that it's all important because that's what he wants. It's all about him. And that's the ultimate idea of Achdus. This is discussed at the beginning of the second section, Tanya, Shara Yichud Ve'emunah, the difference between Yichud Ilah, you've heard those words, supernal unity, and Yichud Tato, and lower unity. The difference between Shema Yisrael, the verse Shema, and the verse Baruch Shem. Every morning you say this. What are you saying? Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad is all God. All God, nothing but God. Finito. Baruch Shem means there is a world, and there is honor, and there is glory. And all of that we're going to bring back to God. Both are very important. But there's a difference, a fundamental difference in the perspective. Is it only God and that's it? Or is there something else that's sublimated to God? So the Alter Rebbe explains That's the difference between the experience of Shema Yisrael, the first verse, and the second verse, Baruch Shem, which is it's that second verse, the second saying, the prayer, Baruch Shem, which is Yichud Tato. It's a lower Yichud. Let's continue inside. And this is the meaning of what the rabbis say in the Gemara Psochim. Amar Rabbi Shua ben Levi. Rabbi Shua ben Levi says, Hani chof vav hoidu keneged mi. You know that in Tilim, there is Tilim 137, it says 26 times hoidu. Keneged mi, who do they correspond to? Keneged chof vav doides. They correspond to the 26 generations Shepora Kodesh Baruch Hu, the Hashem created by Lama in his universe. V'leinosan lohem Torah, and he didn't give them the Torah. V'zon oisam b'chazdoi. So how were they sustained? Through his kindness. This is the end of the Medrash, and now the Rebbe explains. V'hainu she'afal pi shehoyu oivdei avodah zarah. The people throughout the first 26 generations were idolaters, like the generation of Enosh. Nevertheless, how did they exist? Through God's kindness. So the question is, wait a minute, where, what? And the answer is, Hainu Prinas Rav Chesed the Arich Anpin. This is what we're talking about. It's called, Yoni, the abundant of Chesed. There's two things, Chevra. Chesed, and there's Rav Chesed. Make a note of that. So when the people of the first 26 generations who were idolaters, and they survived and they lived, they got their energy from the Rav Chesed of Arich Anpin, which we said earlier doesn't discern. The sun shines, everyone can benefit. Shemisham nimshecha hashpa. From there, the influence is drawn even to those that desecrate God's will, i.e., they are idolaters. And he goes back and he quotes the Medrash. The Torah was not given to them, and they were sustained through his kindness. What does that mean? If you follow strict rules of Torah, Moshe, they don't deserve any influence. They're bad boys. Why? The Araisa for the Torah, Mechochma Nafkis, it comes from wisdom of God, Uvechochma Yesh Hakbola. And when it comes to wisdom, there are limitations. Why? From the Torah's perspective, from Chochma's perspective, kindness will be given in a specific way and not in another way. In other words, if you earn it, you get it one way. If you follow certain dictates, you get it one way. So in other words, from the perspective of Chochma, there's a difference in the hashpa, in the influence. When you do the will of Hashem, the chesed will come and be given. And if you don't do it properly, it won't come at all. But those people from the 26 generations, although they desecrated the will of Hashem, they still got the energy. Not based on the Torah. From the chesed of God, who Prinas Rav Chesed, this is the level of an abundant chesed. And this is a phenomenal idea, guys. A phenomenal idea. Getting Hashem's chesed, not a Torah. So why don't we go for it? You can get chesed.
It's like on credit.
What do you mean, like on credit? Let me understand and see if you really got it. What do you mean?
You get a free gift up front. before you activate your account.
Yeah, but I don't know. But Hillel, that implies to me that you're going to activate your account properly. That's not what we're talking about here. Here we're talking about idolaters. Okay. No, they sin. So I can't accept your mushal in that aspect. Maybe in another aspect. You follow what I'm encountering with, right?
I hear it.
Right. Hear it. So what's going on here? What is going on here? Stop for a moment. This is a fascinating thought, Ari. This thought is revolutionary. You know what it says here? The Rashab is explaining, based on the Medrash, that the Goyim, the idolaters, I mean, like in those days, in the 21st, 26 generations from when the world was created, right? The sinners, the people who today you would say are bringing all of this mishagas. One second, please. Into the world, they get Rav Chesed. They're getting a free ride. So Hillel did touch upon something, those words, that's what I thought he meant to say, and I'll elaborate. A free ride. When you get a free ride, you end up going the wrong way. Or you end up going into an Arab village. Don't look for free rides. You want free rides? You're going to get. And yeah, in the beginning it's going to feel good, but at the end it's going to be a disaster. Don't look for free rides. Work. Harava. But philosophically, you know, what we're learning is so fascinating. It's not al-pi Torah. What does it mean it's not al-pi Torah? So the Rebbe explains. Al-pi Torah, there's right and wrong. And this is also very important to think about. Listen to this. The fact that there's discipline, there's right and wrong, law and order, that's gewaldic, that's so good, that's Torah. Yeah. Yes, there is a realm that Hashem wants, it's called the Torah, and when He is invested in that realm, there's right and wrong, and that's the proper way. If you act improperly, and you still are sustained because you're doing your merry way, you're getting, as he says, Rav Chesed Me'arach Hampin. It's great that you're getting from there, but remember, it's a free ride. What do you want to say, Moshe?
Yeah, I was gonna try to come up with an analogy, like Hillel, instead of what Hillel said, like they're like riding on the fumes. It's like the fumes, you know, of something, or if there's some sort of a process and it gives off like a byproduct, which you could use for something for a little while. You know, I don't know, just
right. Kitzer, let's
like a residue.
Yeah,
a residue.
Yeah, but Ari, we learned earlier. You didn't learn it probably, but this isn't. We're not talking here residue of the good. We're talking here about a very high, exhilarating, thrilling experience. So it doesn't feel like residue. It's not dregs and garbage. It's hot and heavy and great.
Kind of, it's like a bus that's driving, right? And you could either, I guess, pay and get on the bus, or you could, you know, wait for the bus to drive past, and you have a skateboard, and you try to like grab onto the bus, you know, and like, or maybe, you know, like a bus generates some wind as it goes by, and you try to take advantage of the wind, you know. I don't know.
Very good. That's good. I like your thinking. No, I'm serious. Very good that you're coming up from Shalom. That's what you need to do when you learn Chassidus. Kitzer. Let's look at the Kitzer. Synopsis. We learned in this chapter 1, Yenikas HaSitra Achra, the nourishment of the negative side. How is that? Aleph. Ari, here you'll see the Kitzer. Miribui HaTzimtzumim. This is what you were referring to, the residue. It comes from the many contractions on the pneumius light, on the inner energy, as it goes through what we call tzimtzumim, contractions. What's left over is that residue, and you get benefit from it. That's the first. You only need number 2, base. Mehamaki for Elyon, and that's what we're talking about in the latter part of the Maimer. You get from the supernal makif, which is open to everyone. You're not getting residue. You're getting from a place where it says anyone that wants, come and take, and you can be a bohemian, and you still can get. Okay? The 10 generations from Adam till Noach, from Noach till Avram, they were sustained with Hashem's chesed. Erech HaPayim, which refers to the lengthening of anger or the lengthening of the faces, Ein Sof. Next page, 135. It refers to the infinity of God that transcends the progressive descent of the energy. The Ein Maisa Tachtoinim Negeya. And over there, the activities that we do are not relevant. They're not Negeya. They don't touch it. They don't make a difference in it. And their influence that they get in that experience isn't based on Torah's dictates. It's only because there's abundance of kindness that Hashem says, I'm giving and you guys can benefit. Let's go to chapter 2. What's the amount of energy that from this experience one gets? It's called ribui, a lot, right? It's plenteous, plenty. That's why some of these people have lots of wealth. Okay? Why are such people wealthy? Another basic question. They have so much that there's no calculation that can justify it. As it says in Koheles. And the answer is, he quotes Koheles, for there are no words, no reckoning, no knowledge or wisdom in Sheol, meaning in hell, excuse the expression. They receive without any apparent reckoning. Again, this experience and level is open. So if you're going to take from there, you're going to get openness, but it's openness of Sheol, of hell, of I'm using the word hell, I don't know what I mean, of bad. At the end of the day, it's gonna be used for terrible things. I mean, I told you that story. I'm not going to repeat all the details, but when I was with a bacher in Los Angeles, and I went out to meet someone to do a mivtzoyim on Friday to put film on. So it was on Wilshire Boulevard. I remember it like now, and not Crescent Heights, one block after. I forget now, and went into someone's office who I usually, if he was in, I would put film on with him. And one time he says, "Close the door, please." I close the door. And he pours his heart out to me, and he says, "Look at my rings on my hands, my fancy."
Culver City.
No, it wasn't Culver City. It was on Wilshire Boulevard in L.A.
That's Beverly Hills.
Yeah, right before La Cienega. Anyway, and he tells me he has a house in Hawaii and he has a house in Beverly Hills, and he blows a big chauffeur, and he says, and it's all worthless because my own daughter steals my silverware to barter for drugs, so I have to hide the silverware. So and he was a fine person. Oh, and also he was a criminal lawyer, and he won 19 out of 19 cases. I remember that. So he had a good from all sides, and he was a yid. It wasn't a frum yid, not yet. Hopefully today he is. Anyway, the point is the klipa gets a lot, but it's wealth, a lot of wealth. But guaranteed at some time, if not during your lifetime, your kid's lifetime, not your kids, grandkids, it's not going to stay there in a healthy way. That's what he says over here. Let's continue. It's a book of Kabbalah, I believe. It says over there, reckoning is called Chochmah, for it is included in the term for thought. 1 second. Look at note 188. Cheshbon, the Hebrew term for reckoning, consists of similar letters as, and is thus related to machshava, thought. Right? The letters Chochmah and Cheshbon are the same, close to the same. Hence, Cheshbon can be tied to Chochmah. That's what it says over there. Back to the text. Over Gemara, and in the Gemara in Baba Basra it says, Darshu, the Gemara expounds al Pasuk, quote, Pasuk in Bamidbar, Al Kain Yoibru HaMoishlim. Come, let us make the reckoning of the world. Bo Cheshbon, Bo V'Nachshev Cheshbon Shalaylam. I'm sorry, the pasuk means, therefore, those who use parables say, quote, come to Cheshbon. So the Gemara explains, Cheshbon is not just a locale, but come, let us make the reckoning of the world. Let's make an accounting. Was it worth for God to make the world? Did he make profit on the world? Did he lose money on the world? Let's make a reckoning. And the loss of a mitzvah, hefsid mitzvah, against its gain. And then he says, and the profit of a sin against its loss. Let's make an accounting. Mitzvahs and aveiros, profits and losses. Okay. The Cheshbon, next paragraph says the Rashab, this Cheshbon, who mepchinas ha-chochma d'oraisa, it comes from the wisdom of Torah. Mi-chochma nafkis, it comes from wisdom, v'hu pinas kav amida, and it's what we call the measuring stick. Shemesham nimshecha amida v'akitzva, it's from there that measurements and budgets, I'll call Ashpas Ruchnis Gashmias, for all of Gashmias come from there. The budget for Gashmias, and guess what, Ari? The budget for Ruchnias all comes from this level of Chochmah. The Inyan HaMishkal V'Amida Ha'Ba'if in Iskal was the Chesed of Gvura. And this measurement and this weights that you measure, it includes Chesed and Gvura, kindness and judgment. Chochmah measures how and in which way should the chesed and the gvura, which are included, be given. How much chesed and how much gvura? You know, right? It's a weight. It's a measurement. How much should you get of each? Each one. And that is how the measurement that's given from this position of Chochmah, of Torah being Chochmah, is limited in different ways. Now we're getting to some juicy stuff, Chavre. For example, children, in matters of children, health, and parnasa. Where is it coming from? How much children, how much parnasa, how much health, etc., does each one of us get? How much influence you'll get, and in what manner? He quotes the Gemara in Beya. A person's parnasa is decided, listen to this, on Rosh Hashanah. It's a Gemara. And so we have another saying, man is judged every day, every hour. It's another Gemara in Rosh Hashanah. Sha'adinu mishpat, that judgment, It depends on everyone's daily behavior. That is the reason why this is the way and how much he gets, and in a certain way how he gets it. Based on his behavior and the amount allotted to him of chesed and gevura daily. Whether Hashem overpowers chesed on a certain day and boy, the stock market flies up 1,500 points, you got the right stock, you made a tremendous amount, you sold it, Baruch Hashem. And another day, the market goes down all the way and your stock sinks all the way down. The same person, the same Hashem, what happened over here? And the answer is, because it's coming from Chokhmah and it's limited and measured, depending on what you are each day, that's how you trigger the hashpah. Adam, Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, Adam nidain b'chol yoim. Man is judged every day. One day, 0, and one day, 1,000,000. One day healthy, and chas v'sholem, one day not healthy, etc. Oy chulu chas v'sholem. You see, the Rebbe says, he doesn't even want to say it out. The Rashab doesn't want to say the opposite. He says, in his gabrus hachasodim, where chesed overpowers and you got abundance of good, or he says, God forbid otherwise. He doesn't even want to say it out. We will continue tomorrow. This is very, very important, and this is where the Rashab gets into this whole idea of Parnasa. It's one of the things I told you about before we began learning Kuntres U'Maayan, that he will deal with a very important issue of Parnasa, which we all need and want to understand better, and we want to have the key to influence Hashem, that the Parnasa comes stronger, because we could all do good things with it. So hopefully, as we learn this sugya, this whole parsha in the Maimer about Parnasa, in the upcoming chapters, it's not just 1 or 2 pages, it's a kind of an extensive explanation, discussion from here on. It'll add clarity. Avi, do you have any questions or anything? You've been too quiet.
Ari or Avi?
Ari.
I just want to say, first of all, it's great to see all you guys. I really hope to be back more and more. My schedule's a little bit better now, a little more flexible. I'm with a new company.
Great. Hatzlacha. Hatzlacha.
I had a big will and desire to get on today. I think just to hear this particular shir, that the way you spend your day and where you are affects how Hashem's looking at you this day. So I'm thrilled to join. Hopefully I can continue and really start to make it a regular thing. I appreciate your work.
I could just talk for myself. This morning shir that we have is my highlight of the day. The energy, for me, it's in the morning. But it's and I think that I see from your participation, all of you over the days that we learn, that it's a highlight, and then. Even though for you it's the middle of the day, but it still is a focus. So it's a good, it's not too long, not too short. It's the right amount of time, and we're learning, very important issues, not just philosophical issues that are, not relevant. I try as best as possible to bring it back home and see how it's relevant to us and our families, and to use that as a guide in our in raising our families. It's with the children and the grandchildren, with spouses. I mean, Hasidus is not ethereal. It's not. That's unfortunately, so many people think Hasidus is Kabbalah, which it's not. Kabbalah is abstract, and Hasidus is applied. That's what I say. Sometimes I use the word for Hasidus, applied Kabbalah. For those that are into Kabbalah and mysticism, I try to explain to them that Hasidus is applied Kabbalah. There's abstract Kabbalah, abstract mysticism, and applied mysticism. And Hasidus it's a whole different orientation. And I'm talking now about the Haskalah, the ideas. you see this is not easy. This isn't Aleph Beis. You know, we're going on a ride. We're going high. We're climbing a ladder, and it's very healthy to allow yourself to climb up and leave the world that. And I'm talking about, halacha is halacha. Do this and do that. Okay, thank you. How about understanding what's behind this? Do this and do that. And this is what Chassidus offers, and I think we're fortunate to have it, and we need to share it with the world. It's not enough for us 4 and 5, it's nice, but why aren't 5,000 people learning this today, Chassidus, in the morning? You understand? And now Lubavitchers, Litvaks, Fardim, so we all have our work cut out for us. It's only a beginning. Sei gesund, everyone. Have a great day. Hatzlacha. Take care. Yes.
Rabbi,
yes.
Real quickly.
Yes.
My son Menachem Levi went to Crown Heights on last Wednesday, and he's staying with the Andrusier family. They're from the grandparents are in Crown Heights. The friend that he has lives in Vermont, and Shluchas in Manchester. It's Rabbi Dalton. So he's learning at the Shluchim office every day with his friend. Just really incredible opportunity for him. And I don't know if you have an opportunity to be going to Crown Heights this week, but just to mention it, because if you are able to go and you at the Shluchim office every day, learning for like 6-7 hours a day, it's incredible. But for him to see, he's seen a lot of people that were friends with Crown Heights. It's a big boost for him. But I just wanted to throw it out there. Okay,
but also, maybe does he want to come for Shabbos to Borough Park? Well, maybe can arrange it.
He's going to be going to Vermont for a couple weeks starting this Shabbos. So he was there for last Shabbos. We had some friends in Crown Heights that he stayed with for a day, and then his family came.